Hi guys, today I am going to be making another Christmas card and we're going to be using both my silhouette and my Spellbinders Grand Caliber. So the first thing I want to do is sort out my tree on my silhouette, because that's the part that I'm going to be cutting on the silhouette. So as I do with my gypsy and my cricket, I have set up a template because it's going to be an A5 card. And I've put in a template just using this button here to create an oval which is matching my Spellbinders die. So as you can see, it's nice and easy. You just pull it into shape, you then click on it, and then you set it to the dimensions. And my Spellbinders die is 6.250 by 4.750, and I will show you what that is and the name of it because, when we get to that part. But that's just so that I can judge the size of my tree that I need to place on this mat, because I want it to fit within that Spellbinders die. I've left a gap at the bottom because my intention is going to be to be putting a ribbon or something along the bottom there. So it's just a rough positioning so that I can work that out. So now we're going to go to a blank page and we're going to click on my library, and I've got a section called Christmas, and I've got a few different trees, but the one I want is this one here, the contemporary tree. So we're going to click on that, and it's going to go on my 12 by 12 cardstock. I don't want to cut the elements separately, I want to cut them all as one image. So we're going to group round all of them, then I'm going to ungroup them, which if you're not careful you can see every single dot has been ungrouped, so don't pick any up on their own. So we're going to move the bare tree over to one side, we're going to move the clump of snow and the star, which are easy to move, and then we're going to put a square again, grouping all those circles together, and then we're going to click our group key, and then we're now back to having those as one piece, which is what we want. So moving that over to where we can reach it, we're now going to pop this in position over our tree. Group again, and then just grab that loose one there and just place some of these, because I want them to overlap the main trunk, because I need it to cut as one piece. Just move like so. Just making sure that all my elements are actually touching a piece of the tree, so that when it cuts, it'll all be grouped together. Okay, just a few more pieces. Okay, then we're going to place our star like so. So we don't need that little chap, I don't think. Pop him in here. Okay, and I don't know if I really want the snow, but okay, so now we're going to box around all of it again so that it collects all the pieces, and then we're going to group it so it's all as one. Then we're going to weld So you can see any pieces that it highlights that aren't welded. So we can either get rid of those, which is nice and easy to do, or you can move them and put them into position. I'm just going to get rid of them. So now we've got one complete tree. So all the elements are as one cut. So then we're going to take that again, group it, click, right click, copy, and then I'm going to move to my other page and we're going to paste and place that in position, and then we're going to grab the corner and we're going to drag it to size. Take that down to 6 inches. I press apply. I think that looks pretty good. So I'm happy with that size. And now we'll get ready to cut.
Okay, so here's that all cut out. I think that looks absolutely gorgeous. I'm really pleased with that. I think it's come out really well. And I cut it on this gold sort of textured card stock that I've been using quite a bit over Christmas cards. And it's really, really nice effect. It's not too shiny, but it's got this texture. I would say it's about 250 GSM. And I cut it using a 5 on my silhouette, the blade. So I think that worked out and it went through just like that. So I've got this fabulous milk coloured cardstock and I'm going to fold this in half to make an A5 card. Like so. So I've cut this piece here at 5 3/4 across and 8 inches and 1/8 down, and then I've taken a piece of the gold. It's the same width, so 5 3/4 by 1.5 inches, and that's just going to pop down on the bottom here. The next thing I want to do is emboss this top piece, and I'm going to use this big A4 embossing folder. It's Embossability Spellbinders, and it is the Dainty Dots. And it's a nice size, it's a very useful size. So we've got sort of the little clusters of 4, or you've got the individual ones here like that. So I think we're going to go for the clusters of 4, so we just need to pop it around that way. So I need to make sure that it's going to go correctly how I want it to go. And I'm just thinking I want it that way up, so the little dots are popping upwards. And I just want it up to the line of the gold, and then we'll pop that through our ground caliber. Okay, so when you're embossing using an embossing folder rather than using your dies just to add extra detail to the die cut, you're going to do the following sandwich. So you're going to do your base plate, then your embossing folder, and then your spacer plate, which is your D plate. Okay, and pop that on top, and then just feed it through, and pop those off. And there we have some beautiful embossing on our... Okay, so I'm going to be cutting an oval from these Grand Nestabilities, the Grand Decorative Ovals 1, and I'm using the 1 to 3rd size smallest, 3rd smallest, and they're really, really pretty. And then I'm also going to be cutting one of these Sue Wilson design dies, vintage lace motifs, and I'm going to be cutting this round one here. I'm going to be cutting the round one on the gold because that's the inside of my card, and I've got the cream for the oval die, and I'm hoping to use some ink to emboss through that. Now, because I want to see where I'm positioning them, I put my cutting blade mat underneath and I put the cutting side down. It doesn't really matter, but it just means that I can see where the dies are in position over the actual card, whereas if I did it that way with the cutting blade up, you can't see. And then I just used a little bit of tape and stuck those down, and then I'm putting my base plate on top. But again, I'm going to flip it over so it all sorts itself out in the end. And then we'll pop that through the machine. Okay, so that's that completed, cut rather. So we take that off for the minute, and I'm just going to, not actually going to do that. I'm now going to, it's on my base plate, so I'm removing the cutting plate. I'm going to be putting on my embossing mat. Now, to stop the embossing mat getting that suction that you get when you put it through, I just dust it off with some powder, either like baby powder, or I've actually used my anti-static bag just to dust that off to help. And then we put our pink embossing plate on, and we're going to pop that through the machine as well. Okay. And then pop that off. Now obviously that's got tape on it, so we need to just flip those over. There we go. That one's actually come off. So just pull that tape off. And then we're going to pop those out and see how it looks. Okay, so that's that one all pulled out. I think that looks absolutely gorgeous. So we can put that to one side as well now. And then we're going to take our gold ink and our stencil, and we're going to ink through on this one. Okay, so just very delicate. Okay, so that's that one done. And as I said, don't worry about this middle piece because we're going to be covering that up. But you can see there's just a little detail on this edge, but look how fine that is. It looks absolutely gorgeous. And I think what we'll do is we'll actually do this middle section now, so that can be drying while we're doing the rest of the card. Okay, so I'm going to be using this Cosmic Shimmer Vintage Mica Flakes, and I'm going to put that all over the centre. I'll be taking this Glossy Accents so that it dries completely clear, and if there are any bits that come through, it won't be a problem. Okay, so just starting using the colour that we put on as our guide, I'm just going to go around all the edge here, just creating our outline. We need to work reasonably quickly because we don't want it setting on us. And then I'm just going to fill in all of the inside with the Glossy Accents. Okay, so that's completely filled in with the Glossy Accents. Now you don't need to worry if there's any bubbly bits or anything because you're going to be covering it up, so it's not, you know, the end of the world if you've got any little sort of bubbles or anything. So then we're going to take our Cosmic Shimmer and we're going to very lightly place that, sprinkle that over, doing the edges first. Oops. In the hope that that will stop it spreading too much, because I think it will spread a bit. We're going to leave that to dry and hope it doesn't spread out too much. Okay, so we'll put that to one side. The next thing I want to do is put some gems and pearls onto our little tree just to jazz it up a bit. And I've got some nice big gems here which will go on these roundy bits. So I'm going to pop these on using a bit of my Pinflair glue gel. Okay, and to finish off, I've stuck all those down now, so to finish off I'm going to use Stickles, and I'm going to use, what colour is it? Just says Diamond Stickles, but it's got like a goldy tone to it. I'm just going to pop that on our star at the top. It's really pretty. You can just see the sparkle on the star and the gems and the pearls. So we're going to put that to one side to dry now as well. Now what I've done on this piece is I've just inked around the edges very lightly with the gold ink, and we now need to pop our ribbon on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop this on, I've got this lovely cream silk, or satin rather, ribbon, and I'm just going to pop it on around the back with just a bit of tape, and then I'm going to add a bow to the actual front of it rather than trying to bow it while it's on there. So I'm just going to put some tape along the back here, and then I'm going to place this ribbon so that it's just above that gold line, because what was happening is it's showing through the ribbon, so we want it just above, like so. And then we're going to make our bow, and I've got this gold ribbon as well as the cream ribbon, so I think that that will look quite nice. So I've made my messy bow, and I am just going to stick it down on the glue gel there, and I'm going to make sure that my tails are coming down at the front like so. And then I'm just going to take one of these gorgeous little pearl buttons and pop that on the front, again using my glue gel, and suddenly I think it looks a lot nicer. To finish that bit off, I've got 2 hat pins, and I'm just going to pop those underneath here. Okay, so that's those 2 done. And then just in this corner I'm going to pop 3 little pearls like so, just to finish that off in the corner. And then we're going to attach this piece to the front of our actual card. So I'm just going to put blobs down. I'm not going to put it too close to the edge because we know that the piece doesn't go right up to the edge. So, because otherwise it's just going to mess up the front if we try and put this on the front, unless we waited for it to dry, and I'm not patient. Okay, so that's all done. Now the other advantage of course of popping that on is that it's going to hold this, and it's quite heavy, this front piece, so it's going to hold it nicely in position. So then we're just going to carefully squish it down, because we don't want any particular dimension on the front here, we just want it nicely held. So I'm just squishing that glue gel so it's not too kind of bumpy, it's just flat. But obviously I'm not going around where that piece is too much. Give it a bit of a squidge down there, that's it. Okay, and then slide it forward to make sure it's all in position. Perfect. Okay, so that's that bit in position. So now we're gonna just take this piece and we're gonna pop him on the inside. He was just a bit of decoration for the inside. Let me see that. And that looks really pretty, I think. So that's the front just drying off. So now we need to go and get our pieces that we put to one side to dry and pop those on the front. Another little piece that's just going to hopefully come out from the side of it. And that again just adds that little something extra to the card. Here's our little element covered in glitter, so hopefully it'll be dry enough for us to work with now. It's definitely still, whoops, quite wet, I can feel it. And I'm just using my finger just to pat that in place. And I think that just looks so effective. Okay, so I've put blobs of glue gel on the back of that, and I'm hoping that that will keep it nice and it'll be able to even it up when we get it onto our card. And then we're just going to grab our card and pop, lift this up a bit. Pop this in place. Just giving it a bit of a squidge, very carefully because we don't want to move that, which I nearly did. What we're trying to do is just make sure that this is nice and even. And then lastly we want to put our little tree on, so again very delicately, and I just put some of those mica flakes onto the star because I thought that looked a bit better. And again we're going to have to use our glue gel for this because it's going onto that glitter, so we need to make sure that it's going to stick. Okay, so that's the back of that done. So I just move this across. Now this is a very heavy card with all this stuff on the front. So very carefully, just taking the tip and the base, moving our ribbon out the way. Popping that down very slowly. There we go. Let's pop it onto this white so you can see it a bit clearer. So there we go. That is our finished card. Let me show you that just a little bit closer. Look how pretty it is. All that sparkle. Hey, so I hope you've enjoyed making this card with me, and I'd love to hear your comments, and I'll see you all again next time. Thanks for watching. Bye!